Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Revit lookup tables, what you never knew you needed to know. My name is John Atkinson. I'm an applications engineer here at CTC. And with that, we'll jump right in. So due to popular request, this session is a follow-up to my previous webinar on Revit formulas versus the master unit, where we touched a little bit on lookup tables, how to format the formulas that go into them, and some additional information. So lookup tables at first glance seem to be pretty limiting. However, after a deeper dive into what they can do and how we can manipulate them, I hope you'll come to realize just how powerful they can really be. So previously, lookup tables have historically been used to return a length and angle values, and typically used for duct and pipe fittings. But they're far more useful than they first appear. Now we can use them to return numbers. This allows us to look up any number and return a unitless value that can be converted into another unit. We can also remove those units from certain parameter values before we search the table, allowing us to look for any other type of information. We can use them to check and uncheck yes/no parameters. We can use a yes/no parameter to pull values out of a lookup table. And now we can even return text values. So we can populate, say, model numbers. And we can also use more than one lookup table in a family. So to create a lookup table, the easiest way to start is to export a family types into a TXT file and then convert that into a CSV. Then we remove any unneeded headers, because what that export family types is going to do is bring in all of our parameter values. We just want to pare that down to whatever it is we need, what we're going to look for, and what we're going to drive. Then we sort those headers starting at column B and working to the right in the order that you expect to utilize them. And our standard header format to return a number value is parameter name, pound, pound, number, pound, pound, feet. That's an old style of doing it. We can also use parameter name, pound, pound, other, pound, pound, number. Then we'll save this out as a CSV, name it appropriately, and then to use it in your family, you click on the Manage Lookup Tables, Import, and load that. Excuse me. So in order to use this, once it's in your family, we have a typical formula layout, which is on the formula portion of your parameter. You would use size lookup, which is the function, lookup table name. This is the name of the table as it appears in your managed lookup tables. Then we also have the parameter name in parentheses. What's the name of the header that you're trying to look up? Next, we have the default value, which is if it doesn't find a corresponding value in the columns, it's going to return your default value. Then column callouts progress from left to right, starting at column B and is not limited. You can call out any number of parameters. So the name of the parameter and the column header have no correlation. You don't actually need to use a parameter to drive the lookup table. You can just place in a number or any other value. And to use a united parameter, you have to convert it to unitless by dividing by 1. As you can see in the example, column D divided by 1 makes that parameter unitless and will then work in the lookup table. And then to change your returned value to the appropriate unit, enclose the entire formula in parentheses, multiply by 1, and it will automatically apply that unit. So novel uses for lookup tables. We can toggle that yes/no parameter, as I had mentioned earlier. And the equation for that is size lookup table name. We're going to look for the yes/no column. Default value would be 0 if it doesn't find an appropriate yes, no, or 1. And then we'll start with column B and column C. And both of those conditions need to be met before it returns a 1. So it's kind of like an AND function. And then at the end, we put equals 1. So in our formulas discussion, we talked about how do we toggle or lock a yes/no parameter. We can have it checked if it says 1 equals 1 or any other true statement. If we want to lock that as no or off, we would say 0 equals 1 or any other false statement. So we can use this to control our parameters given certain options that we might be looking for in our family. So there's that equals 1. You have to have that in there. Next, we can use a yes/no parameter to drive values from a lookup table. Again, we start with size lookup, our function, our table name, the column name that we're looking for, and then 0 for our default value, column B, column C, and then a simple if statement to look at a yes/no parameter already in our family, and referring back to our formulas, if yes, then 1, if not, then 0. That basically means if our yes/no parameter in our family is checked, it's going to return a 1, and it's going to look in that column, in this case column D, for anything with a 1. If that yes/no parameter is not checked, it's going to look for a 0. So this can be derived, we can use this to drive any other output based on that yes/no parameter. So we could have a series of yes/no checks for options in our family to help drive a model number. So if it has a heat recovery wheel, or if it has a certain type of finish, you can have a toggle to say yes, it has that finish, or yes, it has, that particular function. There's our yes/no parameter with that simple if statement. Now, how do we use it to return text? Simply put in our formula, and instead of looking for a specific header, we use 2 quotes that are empty, And then the default value also gets quotations because it's text. And then we begin looking for column B, column C. So we can populate an entire lookup table based upon certain selections of column B, column C, D, E, F, however many you need. So a quick look at a lookup table. You can see here I've got column A. This would be that text that I'm trying to pull out. And column B is going to be the first column that always gets called. Column C, we're going to be looking at voltage and phase. And then column E, we have a yes, no. Or we can make it very simple, and column B is going to be checked or unchecked. Column C is going to look for a value coming from our KWs, and then we're going to look at returning that yes, no. So if I jump into my simple family, I don't even have geometry in here right now. You'll see up here I have a yes, no parameter. Let's drag this around a little bit. And over on my formula column, you can see kilowatts. I'm using size lookup, my function, lookup table name 1. So here's my lookup table name. I have 2 of them. It's going to look for KW. So if I go back to my Excel, I'm going to be looking at column F. If it doesn't find a corresponding value, it's going to return a 0. And then we'll multiply, or we'll look at voltage next, or next size, sorry, that's our column B. And then voltage, being that voltage is a united parameter, I can divide by 1. And then number of phases, that's an integer. So I'm going to look at column B, C, then D. When I'm all done, I'm going to take that and multiply it by 1,000 because I'm trying to pull out kilowatts, not just watts. And Revit will automatically put in the unit at the end. So if I back that out and hit enter, it's automatically going to put in that watts. And that gives me 5 watts. Put it back to 1,000. Now I've got 5,000 watts, which we can use in our project and set our project units to kW. Next, I have my yes, no test get. So I'm going to get a value based upon a yes, no value. So if I stretch this out a little bit, you'll see here I have my evens only statement. So whether or not my yes, no is checked is going to change this value. We're starting at next size, so it's going to look at 5 inches. This next size, right after my parameter that I'm looking for, is just referring back to my default value. So if I don't have a value to use, it's going to use that one, pull that information in. Then we'll look at that volts and phase and our if statement. So if I check evens only, that's going to change that, upgrade that neck size to 6 inches. If I change this down to 4 inches, it's 4. If I change it up to 6 inches, it's 6. If we look at our lookup table, I've specified my neck size in column B and column G are going to be the same. And column G for a 5 inch or any odds, I'm just going to round that up. So I have 6 inches, then 8 inches, and then scrolling down further, 10 inches. Next, I'll look at yes, no, test, push, which is going to look at table 2. We're going to look at the yes, no column, return a 0. Wait, I'm sorry, let me jump back real quick. If this is 5 inches and this is checked, that rounds it up. If that's unchecked, that's 5. So both of those conditions need to be met before this rounds up. I don't know if you caught that or not. Also, now if we move on to that push, we can say size lookup, lookup table name 2, yes, no, my default value, and then my yes, no, just because I needed something additional in here. And then throwing that equals 1. So if I check that, this one's going to uncheck. If I take a look at that lookup table, I've got that set to invert. I could use this to drive additional parameters. It doesn't have to be, there's easier ways to toggle a yes, no with like a not statement. But as an example, and then we come to model numbers. This was being able to pull out text was brought to my attention by some good clients of ours, Tyler and Jake, and they found it on a blog. But we can take size lookup, lookup table name 1, enter that parentheses, and what that's going to do is look in column A and pull that text in. Being that column A has no header, that's what we're going to end up with. So as I change my size, my model number is going to update. I can't use model number from out of the box because that's a type parameter. I have to use model number as an instance so that the table can actually update it. And that's simply looking at column B. So as I can keep it really simple. If my neck size is something that's not on the table, it's going to give me a null value. It's going to be blank, and that's what these two parentheses in the default portion of our lookup table return. All right, so if we go back to 6, updates, and we can use this to drive a number of different parameters using a lookup table to maybe provide options for air handling units and pull in that model information based upon selections, whether or not it's a DX unit or something else, or furniture.